right, guys, it's the 1,000-pound gorilla in the room. Generative AI in newsrooms across the world. Tim, how are you guys doing it at Hearst? What are you
obviously, as Jay alluded to there, it's a huge topic, and I think the overall what we preach is, we don't want to just have this one little tiny team working in this area, and we think obviously that the tech is so transformational that we want everybody kind of dabbling. We want different departments, different teams, different divisions going their own way and experimenting, and then hopefully we can kind of, lead the innovation on our team, because that's what we do. We innovate editorially, so it's a nice fit for us to really drive this in our newsrooms in a cautious, responsible way. So I'll talk a little bit about how we're doing that right now. For us, again, editorial focus, right? So all different parts of our organization are tackling AI, automation, machine learning in different ways. We're tackling it through the lens of editorial content and tools. The three things that we are looking to do, and we are doing right now, we want to use different AI and different automation techniques to build editorial experiences that wow our readers. And this kind of falls in line with what the DevHub does through the different types of interactive content and tools that we build. We want to scale and enhance the journalism that we're doing. So can we find ways to make data analysis a lighter lift so that we can do more data journalism across new markets into places that we don't have the time or resources right now to do it? Can we take our highest impact work and make it actually replicable in communities so that everybody gets the benefit? So we're really exploring this, and you can see on the horizon that some of these things that people are experimenting now might be game changers soon. And then finally, the kind of primary focus that we have now is creating tools that really help accelerate our journalism, supercharge the type of reporting we can do, and really kind of simplify some of these complex tasks that we've built for digital audience growth, or any of these kind of little tactics that we've kind of added for digital purposes over the last 10 years. I think those are ripe to be automated in a lot of cases. And, if we can save time, rewriting 18 different summaries for one story, can we spend that time doing higher level, smarter journalism overall? What we're not doing here, as some companies across the country have done, is we're not publishing, direct content without human oversight. We're not trying to, use AI to generate a few extra clicks. What we want to do is move responsibly, move cautiously, take advantage, and not be scared to innovate, not be scared to experiment. But really, our brands are what make us special, and our value is in the trust we have with our local communities, and we don't want to sacrifice that because we got a little trigger happy. So it's not that we're avoiding doing content generation, but we're definitely not mass publishing anything. We have a human in the loop at all times. And the way we preach this to our newsrooms is, don't ever, the point here is not to aim that AI does 100% of any particular job or any particular task. Like, if we can get it to 80%, that's a huge win. And even, if you flip this on its head, and if AI or automation can take 20% of a task or speed something up 20% faster, that's a massive win if you extrapolate that across all the different stories we do and all the different teams we have. So we're trying to get people to realize, like, this isn't like push button success. There's hard work that goes into this, and the goals are really, speeding up, not taking over. Another way to do this with this really tacky AI generated image here is that we want a human at the front to decide how we're going to employ this technology, and we want a human at the end to check and make sure that whatever the content that's generated is meets our standard of quality. So we get to this point in a number of different ways, and I'll talk about them coming up here. But a really simplified way to look at it would be like, if we can have bots, if we can have technology in the middle make things better, just like a personal computer did eons ago, or why not experiment in that way, as long as we have a back check to make sure that what we're doing hits our standard. So what's going on in the industry? This shouldn't be news to most of you, but AI companies are striking ever more deals with massive media companies to train on their content, and also to provide tools to the different media companies so that they can accelerate their development. There's been a lot of experiments with chains by chains and in different ways that are both exciting and sometimes troubling. There's been some rushing of AI content, but also I think you could argue the other point that some places are maybe not experimenting fast enough. And then you're starting to see people build teams, hire AI czars or whatever the title would be, to kind of head this up in a responsible newsroom focused way. On our side, we have one engineer on the DevHub. We're hiring for a second one to focus specifically on machine learning, automation, generative AI. We've talked to dozens and dozens of vendors. I talked to 3 yesterday, and that's a pretty normal deal. And a lot of them are kind of, maybe they may put AI in the title of something they were already marketing, but we've also encountered some really awesome products out there that we hope to be able to work with in the future. We've got a bunch of our internal tools that I'll describe here in a minute already in use, and we've got reader-facing experiences live after making sure that they hit our standard.
Right. So you mentioned you've gone through very many AI vendors. So what's probably the 1 or 2 top coolest AI tools that you've seen off late in the market, and what do they do?
The stuff that Applied XL is doing is really cool, working with Stat and then soon to be working with Bloomberg to kind of, use machine learning to, be able to kind of sense the health of a community. Like, that is so next level and cool. And so, trying to come up with a concept that would work for kind of a local, less topic driven way, I think is something that would be awesome for us to figure out. And then I think I've seen a lot of cool work around, not just summarization, but matching summarization with specific tasks and with platform. And the companies that make that more seamless, I think there's really interesting work there, because that's not necessarily, high-minded thinking all the time. Sometimes you do a specialized campaign and it is, but if we can automate some of that, I think that could be very important for resource tight newsrooms.
How about you, Evan? And anything really cool that you've seen off late?
I don't think it's quite there yet, but I think there's huge potential in the idea. We're working with a company called Indexical, and their idea is insert AI into the scraping process. So, we scrape a lot of data. We get city data, we get, utility data. The source of that data can change on a whim, They haven't promised it to us. It's not an API. We're just getting it from the web. The idea is that you could have an AI layer where, okay, your request failed, but navigate to the site, find the link, reconnect that pipeline, and now you've got data flowing again without having, any downtime for your app. So very excited about the prospect of that working for us. We've got, dozens of scrapers that power our trackers and other projects.
Cool. Sounds good. Producer P, this is what was nominated for an award. Congratulations.
Thanks. It came in second, and we're super proud of that. The developer behind it, Ryan Serpico, started building it in a coffee shop on the weekends before he was even supposed to be working on any of this kind of stuff. It wasn't part of his job description. We found out about it and said, whoa, that's pretty cool. Let's try to get this guy on our team. So he ended up getting it into all of our different markets. And, it's basically an audience optimization bot. How can we, take, the stories that are already written or already published in some cases and, create tighter, better, audience needs like SEO headlines, URLs, keywords, alert language, related links, all these things that when I was a producer, I'd have to do manually for, a couple dozen stories a day. Can we automate that and at least speed up the process for our producers, editors, and reporters? And, we're on V3 right now. He kind of keeps getting smarter as the tech gets better. It's built on different pieces or built on different LLMs, but GPT-4 and 3.5 Turbo are the core. And I'll take you through a little quick demo here. You're looking at our Slack interface right now. And so, say an editor goes in here, types produce as the command. It brings up a little form. You can either put in the URL or you can put in some text. And within a few seconds, the bot analyzes it and it replies to your original question, and it gives you all those things that I mentioned: keywords, URL suggestions for SEO driven headlines, a push alert, and then different types of summaries. So really what this is trying to do is at least get the process started, if not, give you something to go with. You can also interact with the bot, as you can see here, like, hey, I need different types of headlines. Can you focus on this particular angle? Can you give me different URLs, like with this word in them? So you can get pretty specific and get more direct answers, which is pretty cool. And, I think another thing to state is we built it in Slack purposefully. When we started building it, we knew that the technology needed to evolve a little. And now, a lot of our users, are really comfortable with this as their interface, but there is a little bit of disconnect between this and the CMS. So right now we're okay with that. We want the humans to be forced to kind of go in here and, read what the bot spits out and make a definitive choice and then put it in the CMS. But you can imagine down the line, we're going to have these functions built into the CMS, so it speeds everything up. And, just as our culture becomes more okay with this kind of automation technique, then it'll be closer to the actual process instead of having this interference in the middle purposefully.
And do you run all your LLMs in the cloud, or are they all on-prem?
Yeah, we take, we do our own models depending, and we blend, but what we have is it lives on our systems in our cloud. And what do we learn? Well, this is actually a bad number. We're more than 20,000 uses overall. As we improve the different functions, we keep getting more usage, and we do more trainings. And what we found is that the hyperlocal sites that don't have built-in audience teams, that don't have an SEO editor on staff, that don't have a social editor on staff, they really have embraced this, and they're using it every single day, and they've seen big gains in like search-driven referrals and that kind of a thing. The teams that are bigger, that have audience-specific people in these areas, they're not as apt to want to use it as much, but they do use it for ideation, which is pretty cool. And I know back from when I was a producer, I would really like this tool just to be like, hey, get me started when I'm trying to come up with the best potential web headline that works for SEO and also has some clickability for a smart human in it. And, if you can get that brain moving and save 5 minutes, if you save my 5 minutes per story over the hundreds, thousands of stories we're doing a week, then, over time, exponentially, you're going to have a pretty big savings for our organization. So we're excited about that. Next thing I'll talk about is our first reader-facing tool. This took months of development, a lot of talks with legal, a lot of talks with our food team, and it's called Cowbot. And it's basically a chatbot that's trained on a limited bespoke database that we built specifically from this because we wanted to be cautious. So we kind of made the trade-off that, it's going to not give you as many answers as a user may want, but the answers are going to be rooted in journalism that we have done ourselves and that humans have done. So it's nearly 1,000 different restaurant reviews from our food team in San Francisco, and the bot pulls from this database that we built off of those reviews, off of these guides, and responds to the reader in that way. So, it was a good toe dipped in the water to understand what it would take to do this kind of a chatbot experience. It was limited, and we knew that. It worked out well, no really embarrassing things. We were really nervous, like, am I going to get fired over this or not? That was the main question. But it was, nothing, no bad answers, no incorrect, because again, we limited it to the point. So if you're a user who actually wants information about the best dining and drinking in the Bay Area, very useful. If you're a user who's like, I want to use this tool to find out about LA or Portland, Oregon, or, something that's not food related, like it's not going to help you, but I'll take you through a quick demo here just so you get somewhat of a sense of what it does. So user goes in and really simple interface. I'm looking for the best coffee shops in Oakland, right? And this is our perfect kind of user. They say something nice, they go in, it gives you a nice little illustration of a receipt generator there, and, a couple seconds and boom, you get yourself answers to your question. And then maybe they type in restaurants that will make me sick. So this is not our ideal user. This is not the purpose of the tool, but we want to guard against this kind of thing and things that are much, much worse, right? We did a lot of tests that would make your stomach churn, but it pretty much says, look, like that's not in the database, I'm not going to answer it, right? But then you just say, I want Mediterranean food. Well, it's going to, go through the database, go through all the recommendations, guides, and reviews, and return the most accurate topics that it can give you. And again, like, we think that this is kind of like step one into doing more development around this kind of like chatbot, this kind of chatbot type program, where what if we take our full archive? What if we go more topics? What if we blend topics? What if we build off of different markets? Like, what are the different possibilities that actually create the best product for the reader in the end?
Right. So in terms of responsible AI, I mean, you've tested it to the point where you're fairly certain that when audiences ask it weird things, it won't hallucinate because it's been trained only on your data?
That's correct. So it's kind of, the trade-off was being sure that we won't have really bad hallucinations versus it's a limited product, right? So we took that bet, and I think a good first step for us, but we know we need to do more.
Excellent.
This is one we're working on now. It's a Dispatch. It's an email summarization tool. We're using it in a couple markets right now. We're going to be expanding it. And basically what it does is it takes the summarization feature, but we've trained it on thousands of pieces of content, newsletters, and also different types of kind of modules, like the way that we write particular parts of the newsletter. So maybe one part of the newsletter is a little voicey. Well, we've trained it on that, written by a human, and we're able to put in the URL or the block of text, and it puts it back in that voice. Maybe that part of the newsletter is 6 bullet points that are really pithy and short and have a link at the end. We're able to put in different URLs or different blocks of text, and it produces it in that format. So, we're developing it kind of module by module, but as we continue to develop, we see this really being a great way to have really high quality briefing style newsletters done in an efficient, smart way that still builds on the back of the journalism we've already reported, edited, and vetted, but doesn't take as long to produce.
And on your roadmap, will you train the model on like the tone of voice of a certain reporter versus somebody else, for example? Is that sort of on the horizon?
Yeah, definitely. The way we're structured, we have newsletter editors in our markets, and they write in particular ways, and so that's where we're starting. We're not, we're doing it transparently. We're not saying like this was written by Kelly Wang, we're saying this is done by AI technology, but we're definitely heading, like, that's the purpose, right? We want it to feel conversational. These are things we're either working on or just published. Really kind of, very small scale, but cool little tool is the alt text generator. When we do our projects, we might have hundreds of photos in a project that's a visual project in nature, and this creates the alt text for them automatically. It saves a ton of time in our newsrooms, and leads to doing more visual products. MC is our quiz generation tool. It just went live last week, and we're kind of doing the hard launch this week. And so this takes our edited content and goes into our metric system, Parsley, pulls out the most traffic stories of the week, analyzes those stories, and creates questions and answers from them. And then an editor is trained to go in and limit the questions, edit for taste, make sure everything looks the way it should look with pulling in the photos and everything. And then you have a quiz, and 10% of the time it would take to produce it manually. And then And then the public meetings transcriber that we're calling Assembly, really cool journalism tool to cover news deserts or areas that we just will never be staffed to cover, where we can take the videos from public meetings, whether it's a city council or board of supervisors, analyze, break them down into a transcript, and then have the AI pull out, chapter summaries of each. So you get kind of timestamps, you get chapter titles, and then you also get the bot's opinion of what may be newsworthy, so that a human reporter or editor can then go, oh, whoa, I couldn't attend that meeting for 5 hours last night. I got this transcript that's chaptered, and I got summaries of the most important points. I should actually cover this thing in this far off community, and they can make a decision to go and really commit some resources to it. So we hope this helps all of our newsrooms kind of expand what's going on, knowing what's going on across more bigger regions.
And when you roll out all these AI tools, do you have somebody that's sort of quantifying the accuracy of the summary or the level of hallucination? Or I mean, is there? I mean, who does that at HNP for you guys?
Yeah, so we're doing that in-house now, but we hope to expand that program to have different types of perspectives come in and ensure that everything's coming out the way it's coming out. For now, we review and everything's in public channels so that we're able to keep track of what's being used when and where and by whom. But that's partially why we don't publish anything direct to the readers without human review directly. And then finally, like, this is how we see our expansion paths going, and we talked about internal tools, like tons of opportunity in capital J journalism. A number of the Pulitzer finalists this year used AI and automation in the reporting. We want to do more of that. We've been doing that in different ways. Expanding our data journalism, I talked about that. You talked about personalization, huge opportunities there to create a personalized digest in an app or on a homepage or delivered directly to you, through, some automation, some machine learning, versioning, right? Like seeing very cool stuff in different markets elsewhere where, you can get the bolded version of the story, you can get the text version of the story, and obviously the playful stuff like give me this story in a poem form or whatnot. So we want to definitely look at that as a way to think about the different things we're doing. Being able to look at different marketplaces. Are we going to be able to repackage the work we do editorially into different bots within an AI store, a GPT store, and kind of on the back of the Cowbot, can we make a news assistant for the homepages for an app where readers can kind of interact with our content instead of going through a list of links and picking and choosing around a site or coming in sideways from search or social? Can they just talk to something and get the answers they want that are both local, up to date, and done at a very high quality versus like the open web that you're going to get this mishmash of bots talking to themselves and kind of general content? Like, do we have more refined content that we can offer through a chat experience that covers our entire archive and everything new that we publish up to the minute? And then our LLM usage, we have a direct relationship with OpenAI. So a lot of our development has happened on the back of their different models as they've expanded and grown and gotten smarter. We've adjusted and done different versions of the different products that we've created. But sometimes we do look at others. If you look at Assembly, that's built with Claude, and that's because of the ability to have more text analyzed within the window. And we'll see. We test out all different types of LLMs and use what we think best hits our needs, but OpenAI's products have fit what we need pretty well.
So if I may ask, what's Sorcerer? Is that like your input desk or something? That's Sorcerer?
Yeah, so I didn't talk about it's a cutie name. Basically, a reporter can go in, this is still in development, and say, I'm doing a story on the San Francisco Zoo here in San Francisco. Like, who should I talk to? And it'll analyze the archive, and it'll take from the web and give you a list of suggested people that you can contact as sources. So it could be like the director of the zoo. It could be somebody who's been publicly critical of the way that they the gorilla habitat or whatever. And in theory, kind of get you started on your story much more quickly than having to do that research on your own. And then from there, you would obviously go and talk to real people. That's what we got.
Well, it's been a fascinating conversation, and I know we've run out of time completely, but I just have one question for each of you. And really, there's so much more to cover. Like I would have wanted to talk about dynamic paywalls or metadata extraction, but we've just run out of time. So I'll keep this super short, both of you. What's the coolest AI implementation in news that you've seen across the globe? That's been absolutely fascinating for you guys. Yeah, Cowbot is pretty cool, by the way. But what, in your opinion, completely trumps that?
It's a good question.
You want me to
go ahead? Yeah, you go.
Well, it is not unlike Cowbot. I thought the Ask FT bot that had gone online, for FT, And that, that is kind of like where I see a lot of these news organizations heading in terms of AI and surfacing their archive is, folks used to get the print newspaper, and then at some point we'll be like, oh yeah, folks used to check the homepage, but now we just ask a little chat window like about what's going on today, and it tells us in the voice of the publication with the the information the publication is known and vetted, and surfacing photos that have been taken by the staff of that publication. So I think it's a smart implementation that is one step towards where I see a lot of the industry heading. So I'd say Ask FT is what I would say.
Great, thanks. Tim, you?
Yeah, for me, I'll go more in the kind of investigative realm, and there's a lot of unbelievable examples that I'm so impressed by. But one example would be the Wall Street Journal last year doing an investigation on lead cables and how they're polluting environments all over the country. And, nobody even knew these things existed. And they used AI. They trained the AI on, I don't know how, a couple hundred photos of what the satellite images of what these cables look like in the environment. And then they were able to process tens of thousands of photos, satellite images through the AI, and it was able to then, provide them a couple hundred areas that were high likelihood that this would be where these cables could be. And then the investigative journalists would go in, and then they would say yes or no. But it was highly accurate, and the ability to do that level of journalism through a machine in ways that can better the communities that are affected by this kind of thing. It was just mind-blowing. They did that much work just in that one area, and then we're able to wrap it around this whole investigative project that is going to save lives.
Well, that's a fascinating example. I agree. Well, folks, thank you so much for your time. It's been a fascinating conversation, both on the DevHub and the GenAI bit. So, Evan, Tim, much appreciated.
Yep. Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Jay.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye.